Our Senator Kirsten Gillibrand has joined us. You'll be hearing from her. You'll be hearing from our local Congressman, Brian Higgins, momentarily. I also want to acknowledge the presence of our great Attorney General, Tish James, who's here, traveled here from New York City. Our Mayor, Byron Brown, extraordinary leadership at a time when our community needed him the most. So I want to thank Byron Brown. Our new Congressman Antonio Delgado, our Lieutenant Governor designee, has joined us. Also, we have the Majority Leader of the New York State Senate, Andrea Stewart-Cousins, here. Thank you for joining us. The Speaker of the New York State Assembly, Carl Heastie, has joined us as well. Local Senator Tim Kennedy, great leadership in a time of the great need for this community, as well as the Majority Leader of the New York State Assembly, Crystal Peoples-Stokes. This is her neighborhood. This is her community as well. Council President Darius Pridgen is here. Bishop Darius Pridgen. The leadership he has shown has been incredible. Our County Executive Mark Polenkars, as well as other county leaders, Sheriff Garcia and our District Attorney Flynn, as well as all the council members, the community leaders, and the clergy. My God, we needed your prayers so much, and we thank you for helping us start to heal. I want to thank President Biden because when he called me not long after the shooting, he said, "Kathy, what can I do for you?" And we spoke for a little while. He says, "This is your hometown." I said, "Yes, Mr. President, this is my hometown. I live 15 minutes, 10 minutes from here where it happened. I'm a daughter of Buffalo, and I'm so proud. I'm proud to be governor, but right now I'm daughter of Buffalo." And I said, "Mr. President, Buffalo's a little bit like Scranton, a little bigger version of Scranton. You know Scranton. And you live a long time and you love your community, but you get knocked down a little bit and you don't quite get the respect sometimes that other parts of your state do, and you just kind of feel like, you need a little attention." And I said, "You know what, Mr. President," he said, "what can I do for you?" I said, "If you came to Buffalo, if you came and showed up and just gave a collective hug to this community, there's something called Buffalove. It's a combination of the word buffalo and love. We call it Buffalove. Give us a big embrace, Mr. President. That's all we need you to do." And he said, "I'll be there. I'll be there." So I want to thank him from the bottom of my heart for helping my beloved community and the people of my state heal with his presence today. You're going to be hearing from him momentarily. He is the most empathetic person who's ever occupied a seat in that position, and I want to thank him. I will be brief because you're going to hear from a lot of people, but this is raw still. This is a lot of emotion. Our hearts are literally broken in two. One half grieves so deeply for the families, and some of them are with us today, and I cannot imagine what it's the searing pain that just must be going through your bodies to think that your loved one is no longer with us. We're still trying to comprehend this. But there's also this other side of our broken heart that is filled with some anger, and it's because we're human beings. You can't witness what happened to this community, where an individual who is radicalized in the beliefs of white supremacy and nationalism, who was so taken with these philosophies that are now becoming way too mainstream. They're not just in the dark web anymore. They're starting to percolate up. We're actually elected officials are starting to embrace them and talk about them. And you hear about them in Congress by certain people, and you hear about them on cable shows. It's not just buried in the web anywhere. So these hateful philosophies are starting to become mainstream, and they took hold in the mind of an 18-year-old who lives 3 hours from here. And he targeted this community, intentionally coming to this zip code because he could do maximum damage and death to people, not just any New Yorker, but he was targeting and wanted to execute Black New Yorkers. That's hard to comprehend, the depth of that hate. And it wasn't that alone, though. You could have that hate in your heart, and you could sit in your house and ferment these evil thoughts, but you can't act on it unless you have a weapon. And that's the intersection of these two crises in our nation right now. The mainstreaming of the hate speech and the racism and everything else that brought that person to this point, but also the access to military-style weapons and magazines, and it is that lethal combination that resulted in the loss of 10 decent, good people. We pray for them, but they're not with us because of that combination. So this is not just a call to action for the people of Buffalo, and they are rising up. You cannot believe the depth of their spirit and their resiliency. I've embraced them, I've hugged them, I've cried with them. We will get through this because this is Buffalo. We're tough. But this should not just provoke a conversation in this community. This needs to stimulate a national conversation about how we make sure that we're doing everything we humanly can to eradicate this evil and send it back under the rock from which it came. That is what we must do in our nation, and continue to work on the access to guns. Yes, the gun he acquired was illegal in the state of New York, but it still had the capacity to kill people. But you couple that with an illegal magazine from another state you brought in literally minutes away in Pennsylvania. You know how easy that is? That's why we need a national gun policy that's common sense like we have here in New York. We need this everywhere. But my friends, we are here to say, yes, we'll have those conversations, but there'll be more than conversation. We're not just going to talk about it until the next crisis and the eyes of the world turn away from Buffalo. We're going to keep them focused on what happened here to 10 human beings, our neighbors. And we'll never lose sight of that. That's who we're fighting for. That's who we're heading into this fight with. Those people in our hearts and our minds. So, as we've prayed since Saturday, a lot of us have been in a lot of churches and services. We pray that God will give healing to these families and this community. But God, give us the strength to forge ahead with the strength and conviction that justice must be done, but also changes must be made. And we'll all remember that it started here in Buffalo, New York.